Did you hear about Jeff Hardy finally apparently was able to obtain the results of the drug test that he took whenever he had what was described as his bad night in wherever, and they gave him the ultimatum to go to rehab or he was fired. And he said, fuck you, I ain't going to rehab, I don't need to. Because it turns out he was right. He passed the drug test. How did they run Jeff Hardy off into the waiting arms of his older brother for nothing? Can you reflect on this?
Well, the other funny part is apparently when it became apparent that he had not failed the drug test, they tried to get him to come back, including enticing him with being inducted into their Hall of Fame this year.
Oh, well, that would entice me, and we'll nominate you to be the nicest guy in prison, too. But how does that happen? How did they... okay, because of his track record, including the TNA pay-per-view that time and et cetera, people, it wasn't a surprising, shocking thing. Oh, no, not him. Nobody had that reaction, right? And I understand that because of his track record, people in the WWE or in the office would keep probably a little bit better eye on Jeff than some other people that they had no reason to suspect might be having an issue with anything. But I personally myself have future endeavored a couple of people in the wrestling business during my time for being under the influence of something, and it was fucking obvious. That's why they got future endeavored, because it was fucking obvious. They actually, in one case, I was trying to avoid it being obvious to me, and the son of a bitch wouldn't let me. Came right up to me where I had no other choice. But unless it was a situation, which apparently it was not, where there's no need for a test. There's no need. This is pretty much an open and shut case. As Dennis Condrey said one time on the interview, the case is closed. That there's no doubt. Then why didn't they wait until the results of that test came back before they gave him the ultimatum to go to rehab? Because they just ran the motherfucker off and let him go. They released him because he wouldn't do what they asked him to do that he knew he didn't need to do. And it's okay, well, then go wait. Without waiting for the drug test, unless he was fucking slobbering, eyes piss holes in a snowbank, tripping over his own feet and getting in his own way, somebody there didn't talk to him, just say, hey, Jeff, why did you leave the match and go out in the crowd? And did he have a coherent response? Coherent for Jeff? Sometimes he marches to the beat of his own drummer. Everybody, the agent report, we've read a few of those quotes from the night were that he had a bad night. Oh, what does that mean? He had a bad night? He had an upset stomach? He was depressed about his pet passing away? Or he was on fucking drugs? If he had a bad night and it's not obvious, not apparent that he was under the influence of something and he just did some screwy shit, then I think it would have behooved them to say, here, piss in this, and we're going to wait a week or however long we've got to wait to determine whether you're just a goof or whether you're under the influence of something or whether you're just jacking off. Especially one of the biggest stars in the business that could potentially and probably will be going to the opposition that we've already fed enough talent for a fucking mid-sized territory and can revitalize the moribund, Google it, kids, it's a great word, career of his brother on the other roster at the same time. And now they're already teasing it because they've got Hardys wandering through the crowd on every channel. What the fuck? How could this have happened, Brian? You have never worked for these people. I have. And this is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of them doing. I can't explain how this could happen.
We talk a lot about the lack of structure in AEW, but you also got to talk about the broken structure in WWE. This is a breakdown of a lot of different things that this would happen. And again, it all played out in front of the fans because he walked out and it was filmed and everyone knew about it. And it turned out he had the trump card. He knew that he was going to pass the test. They look awful here. And again, they went back to him after the fact and tried to entice him to come back.
We've slandered you publicly in front of the world. We've demanded you go to rehab, and then we've released you for doing nothing more than being goofy at a house show. And now we want you to come back and we'll put you in the Hall of Fame. Fuck you.
It's a mess over there. Lack of structure in AEW, but he's not going to have to put up with this.
Well, there's a few wrestlers that's been there that are names that we can't seem to get rid of. They stay year after year. I wonder, is Goldberg just going to turn to dust in the ring? Do you think it's at some point? Hey,
can I ask you a question? If you're
Yes.
AEW now, knowing all this, do you sign Jeff Hardy?
Of course. Are you out of your mind? Because when it was thought that he might have an issue again, then that was something that everybody, including me, was like, well, you got to hopefully he gets the help or whatever first or blah, blah, blah. But if it come to find out that the WWE just not only was incompetent enough to turn over one of the guys that still gets one of their biggest reactions and is one of their best name recognition talents, but also was completely clean and didn't do anything they accused him of. Fuck. And if I was Jeff, I would be calling Stephen P. New. They slandered me in front of the whole world. That's fucking insane. I would imagine that as soon as, or I won't say I imagine, if I was Tony Khan, I just shuddered at that thought. As the minute that he's available contractually, whatever the separation agreement was or whatever, or whenever they can book a good-sized arena for a major live production in the state of North Carolina, I'd have to try to do another Punk in Chicago business with the Hardy Boys reuniting in Fayetteville or whatever. Because people would throw some babies in the air over that.
And we don't even know exactly who you blame with WWE, right? We don't know if this is talent relations or if this is, who do you blame for this?
Well, and I don't know because I'm not there and haven't been there in a long time. If this was, if honestly, there's so many people now you can blame, right? Because there's such a larger staff now. We've been talking about agent reports on the program here and on the experience for the past couple of weeks. If this was 1998, you could blame one of the two agents that was at the house show because they would have put it in the house show in the agent report, or they would have observed it, or they would have raised the issue. He wandered off in the crowd. We're going to have to talk to him. What's going on with him? But if Jack Lanza had been there, he probably would have been able to tell whether Jeff was under the influence of something or just being that free spirit that we all know and love. And probably, who knows now what happened? Since he wasn't fucked up, they made it sound like he just wandered out into the crowd. Since he wasn't fucked up, did one of these numbnuts that he was working with potato him or jerk him around or do something to where when he tagged out, he just said, fuck it? And then he starts... I've been in a couple of rings where I've reflected on my fucking position in life. And whether it was in Tulsa when I was afraid I wasn't going to get back to the dressing room alive without being stabbed, or whether it was in one of those shitty towns that WCW ran the last year we were there, where there's nobody in the fucking crowd and the match was the shits and everybody was dead and nobody cared. And I'm just there going, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. What? I don't know. So, but that's the thing. It's easy to explain if he was zombified and cruising on Lake Havasoma, and he wanders out and starts posing for pictures with the crowd because he's in another place. But if he ain't under the influence of anything, that meant that something happened where he just didn't give a shit. and if you don't give a shit, chances are he was not going to be fucking aggravated if they released him. So that's what I'm saying. If Jack Lanza had been there, he would have pulled him back in and said, what's going on? What are you doing? And he would have been able to tell whether Jeff probably was under the influence of something or not. And he would have either put in the agent report, Jeff's cranky about, say, he wasn't fucked up, but he was cranky about something, or he's not happy, or somebody ought to talk to him and pep him up. He was just whatever the fuck, he's wandering around. Or at the very most, said, well, before we jump to any conclusions, we, test him to make sure, but I think he was all right, but he's not motivated, or something else is going on. Or he just honestly wandered out there and gave the people a thrill by putting his hand around them and taking a picture with them while the finish was going on. And he won't do it again. But because now this is such a goddamn giant clusterfuck of a publicly traded company, and the information goes through so many hands, and there's nobody, I guess, I can't think of anybody that would be there now that has Jack Lanza's experience. That would have been 35 or would have been 40 years in 1998 that he'd have been in the business. So, I don't know how that mushroomed into, we're going to demand he go to rehab or fire one of our biggest stars because he wandered out in the crowd after the hot tag.
I think one of the saddest things about this is that Jeff Hardy did have the time and did have an opportunity here to begin a career in coding.
Well, you know what? That would have solved a lot of the issues. Although, since that was such an abrupt transition, I might have gone with, are these fucking WWE agents speaking in code? And possibly they need to have a better Rosetta Stone to translate the code because they got it all wrong. But folks, regardless of where you want to go, one of our favorite sponsors and one of the favorites of all of the Cult of Cornette members is back with us again. They never left. They love us. We love them. Love is in the air. Codecademy. If you want to change your career and you don't want to have to be forced to go to rehab to do it, there's never been a better time to become a programmer. And with Codecademy, you can learn to code on your own terms. Actually, when you make up your own terms, sometimes it's confusing because then you're not talking to the rest of the class in a language they understand. However, we're living in a fast-changing world. We just talked about local television a few minutes ago. Things are changing like crazy. And one of the best ways to succeed in it is to learn to code. So if you try Codecademy today and see where coding can take you, they can help you reach your coding goals. And I'll tell you what, I know for a fact that people out there, the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning is think about their many coding goals. And of course, Codecademy is an immense help in learning skills like building websites, troubleshooting tech issues, transitioning into it. If you want to transition, folks, then Codecademy can help you. They can find you the surgeons. They can find you the fashion designers.
No.
They can help with the entire transition.
No. Completely different thing. Transition
into a new career.
Into a new career.
Career, not gender. Okay. Over 50 million people already know that Codecademy is the best way to learn to code. And actually now, boy, you better jump in because they're going to have to start knocking a few of those people off. If 50 million people know the code, then that's too many people, and loose lips sink ships. So some of those people are going to have to go. We're going to have to send the cleanup crew out after some of those folks that already are in on this and know the code to keep it secret.
Nobody has to go.
Well, go away type of thing. It's a euphemism. Codecademy not only teaches you job-ready coding skills, but helps you build unique projects for your portfolio. I once built Fort Boonesboro out of toothpicks. You can earn certificates and even prep for technical interviews. I don't know why they'll be interviewing you about technical things when all you know is how to speak in codes, but nevertheless, you can choose what to learn. I'd like to learn more about eating, but also you can talk about building basic websites all the way up to artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is something that's going to be taking over the world in the near future because it replaces the actual natural intelligence that nobody has anymore. So no matter what your experience level, you're going to be writing real working code in minutes. Not a motherfucker's going to be able to read it, but you're going to be writing it. You can learn coding languages including Python, HTML, SQL, JavaScript, and more. If you're not sure where to begin, just like me, Codecademy will point you in the right direction. Even if it's down, straight down to the depths of hell, or just straight out the door because they don't want to work with you. You can take their programming personality quiz and get tailored career advice. When you take their personality quiz, they'll know everything about your personality, and then they'll be able to tailor things to instruct you to do, such as overthrow governments, commit covert assassinations. But don't worry, your memories will all be wiped blank. An interactive platform helps you learn by doing.
Your memories will be intact.
Well, except for the part they don't want you to remember. You can land your dream job in web development, programming, computer science, data science, and science fiction. Folks, join the over 50 million people learning to code with Codecademy and see where coding can take you, and get 15% off your Codecademy Pro membership when you go to Codecademy.com. That's Codecademy. You know, if you can't spell that fucking word, you're probably going to flunk out of this shit anyway. Codecademy.com and use the promo code EXPERIENCE for 15% off.